morning, team. It's me, your favourite, the Jordan at the screen, and today, my darlings, I would love to talk to you about International Women's Day. Specifically, I wish to give praise to a particular woman who totally deserves recognition. Now, she is Dr. Naomi Murphy, and she treats personality-disordered sex offenders at the Fens Offender Personality Disorder Pathway Service at Her Majesty's Prison, Whitemoor. Now, I became introduced to her when I heard her speak at the Male Psychology Network's 2017 Male Psychology Conference at University College London, where she delivered a talk titled, "Are the histories of male prisoners less traumatic than those of female prisoners?" And to say that her talk blew my socks off is a bit of an understatement of the highest order. In fact, before continuing with this video, I highly recommend that you actually pause this video right now, jump onto the Male Psychology Network YouTube channel and watch her talk. It is utterly fascinating. Anyway, that all said and done, I'm assuming you've done it now. With her colleagues, they wanted to go ahead and assess the childhood experiences of the men in their care at the HMP Whitemoor. These were men who had been, they're convicted rapists, they were murderers, they were sex offenders, other sorts of violent, grotesque offences. Essentially people who had committed, horrendous, violent and sexual offences against the person. And the prevailing narrative of the criminal justice system is that women who do these things do so because they suffered some sort of historic abuse. So when they do commit these heinous offences, these female offenders should actually be considered as victims, not perpetrators. And I discussed this in an earlier Male Psychology Network blog post. And the narrative continues by suggesting that this is not the case for men. That men engage in these behaviours because they choose to, that they are evil, they are bad men, they are agentic, so on and so forth. And so, therefore, narrative aside, it would come to no surprise to anyone who possesses even an iota, a modicum of grey matter in their skull, that these men at HMP Whitemoor, believe it or not, had also suffered prior abuse. And so, as Dr. Murphy proceeded with her research, she found the media attention surrounding societal discourse, and even fellow medical professionals bought into this prevailing narrative of the men as perpetrators, women as victims, rather than considering men are human too, and that these abusive men had also themselves suffered abuse. She also found that there was actually no requirement whatsoever for prison-based services to be trauma-informed, and of the treatments which were available, they were mostly delivered by young female staff who simply could not understand what the men in their care were trying to tell them. Nonetheless, undeterred by the deluge of antipathy towards these men's life histories, she continued, only to find out how deep this antipathy ran. Now, reports which did consider the life histories of these men were dismissive, insulting, and relied on horrific euphemisms and stereotypes. An example I'll give you now, which is, she spoke of a man who had a quote-unquote typical Afro-Caribbean upbringing, which involved him being beaten so hard as a child he would miss school for days at a time. So, no stereotypes or, offensive euphemisms there. Hint, there are stereotypes and euphemisms there for those who didn't hear my sarcasm. And another was his first sexual relationship was at age 13 with a 26-year-old woman. You do the math. And another was that he was very precocious and began having sex at age 10. See how they speak of these men and boys and why it is they can't seem to understand the trauma and life histories they have endured. Shocking, isn't it, that this is how they detail the raping and abuse of young boys. And this is what they call a andro-hyper-agency, the belief that men and boys are always completely in command of the situation they are in. That is why the 13-year-old is defined as having his first sexual relationship, rather than being defined as being raped by a woman, an older woman. So what she did, she went out, she got these men, just straight up approached them. She was honest with them. She listened to them. She understood them. Everything which was done for female offenders, without question, she instinctively did for these men. For many of them, it was damn near a first-time experience of this. So that is why I would like for her to be celebrated. She did what nobody else was willing to do. She cared. In describing her findings, she found that of the people in her care, after 6 months with her, after they were able to trust her and build a connection with her, they were willing to tell her. 66.1% reported childhood sexual abuse. 72.6% reported childhood physical abuse. 80.6% reported childhood neglect. 66.1% reported childhood emotional abuse. 59.7% reported parental antipathy. 43.5% reported parental domestic violence, and 54% of the men who were sexually abused were victimized by a woman. That last statistic is one of the reasons why these men were struggling to identify and talk with the young female staff who were treating them. See, I need the beer to keep me going because, frankly, what these guys would have gone through is horrific, and it helps me. But followers of my site will know that I do like to drink when I talk about these issues. They are not for the faint of heart. Anyway, this information was revolutionary. Finally, evidence to support the argument that both sexes' life histories should be considered by the criminal justice system. Well, since then, I've gone on to cite her evidence at the International Conference on Men's Issues 2018, and I cited her evidence in my recent post on the Male Psychology Network's blog. Dr. Naomi Murphy is without question truly amazing and is utterly deserving of all our respect. But before I conclude, before I finalise this video and end it there, I would like to throw in a few honourable mentions. So first and foremost, I would like to start with Elizabeth Hobson. She is the Director of Communications for the only party in the English-speaking world to actively campaign for issues affecting men and boys. She is a wonderful mother of 2 young boys with glorious hair, and she's an all-round top lass. I'd also like to give an honourable mention to Deborah Powney, PhD psychology researcher in compensatory consequences of IPV, or intimate partner violence, for male and female victims. She had an excellent poster at the Male Psychology Conference 2018 about feminist myths and domestic violence. Truly great stuff. Pardon me, the beer's coming back up. See, gassy beers, bad idea. She has a chapter in the upcoming Palgrave Handbook of Male Psychology and Mental Health titled Male Victims of Intimate Partner Violence, a Challenge to the Gendered Paradigm. I'd also like to give an honourable mention to Dr. Diana Fleischman, and she is an evolutionary psychologist and senior lecturer at the University of Portsmouth. Her research interests include hormonal influences on behaviour, human sexuality, the disgust response, and recently she's been looking at the interface of evolutionary psychology and behaviourism. She's got some fantastic stuff on YouTube, so I do recommend checking her out. And so, this International Women's Day, I am an anti-feminist white male, the worst of the patriarchs. I will wish these fantastic, inspiring, kind-hearted, truly amazing women a wonderful day. Embrace femininity. Reject feminism. Toodle pip.